Hi, I'm Thomas.
And I'm Amy Jo.
So this week we're going to be going through Revelations chapters 12, 13, and 14. There's a lot of stuff in these chapters. But before we do that, we want to remind you last week we learned of this beast, this terrible beast that climbed up out of the abyss and devoured two of God's witnesses, which represent the church. And we're going to learn more about this beast this week and the dragon who gives the beast its power.
So, as we look at these chapters, it's important to know that the events are not being referenced in order. The timeline is not the focus here. Remember, the primary focus of the book of Revelation is to reveal the person of Jesus. So, let's look at verses 1 through 2 in chapter 12. A great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and a crown of 12 stars on her head. She was pregnant and cried out in pain as she was about to give birth. Now, the number 12 here is a reference to the 12 tribes of Israel, and that also references all of the people of God. And the son that she is about to give birth to is Jesus, who is the Messiah promised to save the world. And as we continue reading, we see that the dragon is here waiting for the woman to give birth so that he might devour the son. The dragon is described as having 7 heads, and we've talked before about the number 7 referencing completion or perfection. In this case, the number 7 refers to the dragon being the complete embodiment of evil, which is Satan. And he is waiting to devour the baby boy. However, once the woman gives birth, her and her son are taken away and protected by God, and instead war breaks out in heaven. As we read, now war arose in heaven, Michael and his angels fighting against the dragon. And the dragon and his angels fought back, but he was defeated, and there was no longer any place for them in heaven. And the great dragon was thrown down, that ancient serpent, who is called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the whole world. He was thrown down to the earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. And now we refer to those angels as demons. Now, notice the dragon here is referred to as the ancient serpent and the deceiver of the whole world. This is linking us all the way back to the beginning of the Bible in the book of Genesis. Chapter 3, verses 15 through 16, talks about right after God discovered Adam and Eve and their disobedience, the first thing he does is to curse the serpent, saying that there will be hostility between the snake and the woman's offspring. So now, returning back to our chapter in Revelation, we're seeing this hostility between the dragon and the woman's offspring being played out more and more. At the end of the chapter, the dragon is continuing to pursue this woman, the nation of Israel, and all of her offspring, who are identified as those who obey God's commandments and hold to the testimony of Jesus. So not just the nation of Israel, but also all those who follow God. So even now, the dragon, Satan, is pursuing Christians, seeking to deceive us and keep us from following God.
So when Amy Jo just described this cosmic battle that was playing out behind the scenes, it's now kind of been cast down to earth. The dragon's been cast down to earth. And in chapter 13, the dragon is standing by the shore of the sea. And as soon as we read this, 2 beasts start to emerge. The first beast comes up out of the sea, and he has 10 horns and 7 heads. He's very much like the dragon in that regard. And the dragon, it says, gives this beast power and authority. So this beast is powerful. There's allusions to military strength, military might. So this first beast kind of symbolizes military strength. And we read in chapter 13, verse 4, they worshipped the dragon, for he had given his authority to the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying, who is like the beast? Who can fight against it? But then a second beast emerges. This beast comes up out of the earth. And this beast is different. So the first one was strong, proud, boastful. This one's deceptive. It looks like a lamb. But when it speaks, it sounds like a dragon. So this beast is very different. There's allusions here to economic power, to economic strength, and we hear, and with this beast, he forces all the peoples of the earth to receive a mark. So this is where the mark of the beast comes in, and so. Oh, yeah, this might be really hard to read because there's a lot on here. So, the mark of the beast. This is something that we promised we would get to. It's fascinated people for hundreds and thousands of years. Now, the thing with the mark of the beast, it says in there that those who are cunning will be able to calculate this number, and because it's the number of a man. John, who wrote the Revelation, it was his intention to speak to his readers in a way that maybe someone who wasn't informed wouldn't understand what he was talking about. He knew Hebrew and he also knew Greek. And his readers knew Hebrew and knew Greek. And so what John does is he kind of makes a code of sorts. If you take the Greek word for Nero Caesar, who was a terrible ruler of the Roman Empire, persecuted Christians, an evil man. If you take his name in Greek and then you change the Greek letters to Hebrew letters, in Hebrew, the letters are not just letters, they're also numbers. So if you add up all of those numbers, it comes out to 666. Now, I've tried to put these kind of calculations on here. So the first one is Nero Caesar. The second one, this is also strange. So if you take the Greek word for beast and you transliterate that, if you change the Greek letters into Hebrew letters, they also kind of form a string of numbers which add up to 666. So anyway, so this mark of the beast, kind of a secret code, kind of not. It was clear that he wanted his readers, when they heard about these two beasts, the military beast and the economic beast, that they would think of Rome. And so he has a purpose behind that. And this mark of the beast, it's they say that it has to go on the forehead or the hand, and that unless people have this, they can't buy or sell anything. This is a clear reference to the Shema, which was an ancient Hebrew prayer of allegiance to God. So Hebrew children from a very young age, they would learn this, and they would pray allegiance to God. But here, the beasts are wanting allegiance to them. They're wanting the allegiance of the peoples of the earth.
So as I'm looking at this, I see that we showed you the wrong one. We did print it so that it would be correct for you, but it's backwards for you. So in any case, here are the letters and the numbers and all that. We can put it in the comments so that you can look at it if you're interested. We're moving on to chapter 14 though. Here we see the Lamb and the 144,000 again that we saw in the last video, with the Father's name, God's name, on their hands and on their foreheads. Again, this is a reference to the Hebrew Shema. This is kind of like the John 3:16 of the Old Testament for the Israelites. All of them would have known this. It's very, very central, and it kind of encompasses the message of the Old Testament. It reads, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength. These commandments that I give to you today are to be on your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Write them on the doorframes of your houses and on your gates." And the idea here is that the Word of God influences the way that we think and the way that we act with our hands. So here in Revelation, we see that there are only two choices. You can either receive the mark of God, His Word on your life, or you receive the mark of the beast and the things that he stands for. Military strength, economic strength, and evil in its various forms. Next, we get a message from 3 different angels. The first angel calls on every nation, tribe, language, and people to worship God because the hour of judgment has come. Here again, we see the inclusivity of the gospel. It is proclaimed to everyone in the whole earth. The second angel declares that Babylon has fallen, so the earthly kingdoms who all eventually become corrupt and begin following a pattern of evil, even if they started maybe trying to pursue a pattern of good and godliness. The earthly Babylon, the earthly governments, will eventually be cast down and replaced with the kingdom of God. The third angel warns that those who follow the beast and receive his mark will be punished along with the beast. And right in the middle there, verse 12 of chapter 14, we hear something we have also heard before. Here is a call for the endurance of the saints, those who keep the commandments of God and their faith in Jesus. So the requirements of God are to follow his commandments and to endure the suffering. It's not about being the strongest. It's not about being the most powerful. It's about enduring suffering, just like the Lamb, and God will be the one who brings victory.
All right. So then next we get 2 images of different harvests. The first harvest is a harvest of wheat. This is a good harvest. This is the harvest you want to be a part of. The second harvest is a harvest of wine grapes, which kind of symbolizes the intoxication of evil and sin in the world, and how Jesus is going to finally deal with this evil in the world. Now, this image of a harvest, it's been used several times. Jesus uses it. If you want to look something up, Matthew chapter 13, he tells a parable. He tells many parables, but he tells the parable of the wheat and the tares. And it goes to something like this. There's a farmer who goes out and he plants wheat, but during the night, the enemy comes and he plants weeds among the wheat. And the workers come to the farmer and they say, hey, there's all these weeds in the field. Do you want us to go and pull up the weeds? And, the farmer says, no, if you do that, if you pull up the weeds, you're going to hurt the wheat. We're going to wait till they all grow up together, and then we'll have one final harvest. So, and then he goes on to explicitly he says, the Son of Man will send out his angels, and they will weed out of his kingdom everything that causes sin and all who do evil. That's in Matthew chapter 13. So there's these 2 images, this stark choice, again, placed in front of the readers of Revelations. Do you want to be a part of the good harvest, the harvest of wheat, where those who have suffered and been faithful are rewarded? Or do you want to be part of the harvest of the wine grapes that are trampled in the winepress? Oh, and look, here's the beast that came up out of the abyss
He is our special guest.
to devour the 2 witnesses. That's our special guest. Great. So, so 2 images, very similar to the mark of the beast and the Shema. Who will you give your allegiance to? Those who read the book of Revelations are kind of faced with these choices. You want to be part of the wheat harvest or the wine grapes? Do you want to receive the mark of the beast and the dragon who empowers it? Or are you going to receive God's mark? Are you going to worship the Lamb? So we're kind of coming to a point here. And the point is that we're learning in Revelations chapters 12, 13, and 14 is that the true enemy is not any particular person or nation or cat.
What's behind all of that is...
Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. The true enemy is not any particular person, nation, or animal, or anything like that. This idea of Babylon Babylon represents the beast. Babylon is just a pattern. Babylon came, but after Babylon came Persia, and after Persia came Greece, and after Greece came Rome. There will always be another Babylon. There will always be another human kingdom rising up who worships economic power and military power. But behind it all, there is something different.
The true enemy is the dragon, Satan, who wages war against all humanity and corrupts our hearts. And we see in Revelation, in these chapters, and throughout the whole Bible, that there are only two choices. You can either worship the Lamb and follow him, or worship the dragon and follow him. Thank you for joining us. We would love to hear from you. If you have any comments or questions, you can post them here or send them to us. There's a lot going on in this chapter, so hope you kind of tracked with it. Next week, we will be looking at part 6, the final battle. And after that, we only have one more video. Thanks for being with us. We hope you have a great week.
Yeah, thanks.